Good afternoon, everybody, and thanks for joining us today for our session on sophisticated BI publisher forms for the modern JD Edwardian. My name is Mike Guerin, and I will be leading through the presentation today. And I am joined, as I often am, Doug and I do the tag team, by Doug McCarthy. Doug's our VP of Sales and Operations here. So quickly, in terms of the folks, I'm Mike Guerin. I'm the president. I've been with TeamCain for 16 years, coming up on 17 now. Hard to believe, but it's been over 35 years since I first touched JD Edwards, and I'm very proud to be a Quest ambassador. Doug's also on the phone. Doug is our VP Sales and Operations out of Connecticut. He's coming up on 3 years with us, and probably coming up on about 18 years with JD Edwards. And easy to tell the difference. He's the younger, better-looking one of the two of us. I'm sure, Doug, you would agree with that. So
I think I'll go with no comment, but thank you, Mike.
So the agenda for today, we're going to go through some basics of BI Publisher, just a bit of table setting, talking a little bit about what some of the capabilities are, what's come available in some of the newer releases. The focus of this webinar is on sophisticated forms. So we want to take a look at an actual existing form that we got from a client and dissect it a little bit. They will remain anonymous, but with some view towards what makes a form sophisticated. From there, we're going to go take a look at the BI Publisher Fast Track process and BI Publisher packs that we have that get you to sophistication. And we'll finish up with some samples, a couple of client stories, a little bit of a discussion about BI Publisher versus third-party software as well. I do want to mention that if the BI Publisher versus third-party software is something of specific interest, we did host a similar webinar on this last month. The recording is on our site for it at teamcain.com, or if you want us to make it easy for you, just reach out to us, ask us about it, and we'll send you the link directly to the site. It's got the recording. So the basics of BI Publisher, there are actually two versions of BI Publisher for JD Edwards customers. The first is the embedded version that works with batch jobs, and the second is the enterprise version. The enterprise version is the one that you use to do things like one-view reports. So if you're familiar with or are at the level where you're starting to use one-view reports or OVR, you can go in, it calls up a designer. There's some templates that are available for you with graphs or charts or pivot tables, and you basically fill in the blanks. The equivalent on the embedded side is the one that allows you to use Microsoft Word as the design portion for it. That makes use of the report definition and also BI Publisher templates. If you're used to working with other third-party tools like CreateForm or Optio or Formscape, those typically work with the PDF output. The difference with BI Publisher is it works with the XML output from JD Edwards. And again, the editing is done in Microsoft Word for it, and there is a plugin which you can download from the Oracle site that allows you to access the tools and capabilities that allow you to connect to JD Edwards. The theory behind and the marketing words that you hear on presentations that are normally done is it's pixel perfect design. And the theory on that is great, and if you've got simple forms design, that's probably the case. What we've seen and the focus on this session is very rarely are there forms where you do not need to get into some level of sophistication. BI Publisher release information. BI Publisher has been out for a long time. It was originally called XML Publisher. With the 9.13 tools release, they added in data-driven output. The nice thing about that was the ability to be able to use the data to parse the report out and send it to different printers or recipients, i.e. for email. In tools release 9.14, they added in the ability to output the file with a different name and location, and also not something that you can control, but there are different queues that are available. So it was pretty common before that if somebody had a very long-running job to have everything stack up behind it. So with multiple queues, you can now, the system will automatically assign the jobs coming in to a queue that will allow it to process more quickly. And the output file and location is really big. Clients that were looking to park the output in PDF format or in another format somewhere did not have that capability beforehand. So With World A9.2, they added an electronic document delivery, and with A9.3, they added in direct printing and some enhancements to the EDD, such as bursting, batch distribution, and transformation. And again, one of the advantages for this is it's BI Publisher is part of the Oracle stack. So in terms of actually working with BI Publisher, there's several steps that you need to do. Most of these are done on a FAT client, and there's at least one that you can only do on a FAT client. So when we're working with clients, we normally say go through this on a FAT client basis only. You need to create the template object, so that's the actual XML Publisher object. You can use a blank object or specify one that's already loaded up. You need then to create a report definition. That's specifying the source UBE, the version, and the XML template from the first step, and also any bursting that you want to do. You access the version and configure or check it out, and the designs are very specific to versions. You can also have report definitions with links to the templates, to the template links. So you create the template in Word, you link it to XML, you define the logic and the conditions, and then you upload it with the P95600. So it's a very short form of the steps involved. Suffice it to say that there are several steps that are part of this. And if you're in a multi-environment, so you're starting out in testing and you want to move to production, there's transfer between the environments as well. So this is an actual client sample. So we had a customer reach out to us and say, we've got the purchase order. Right now it's been designed for us. However, there's a bunch of things we realized that we want to be able to do with it, and we can't. So their specific situation was they needed conditional logic for some of the information to display in the detail lines. They wanted logos on it, and the logos were going to change based upon the company. They also wanted some signature information on it and a few other things. Their also general comment was it's not a very nice looking purchase order. So using that as a starting point, when we're looking at forms design and sophistication, purchase orders are a classic example of that for JDM's customers. So most want a logo on it, and oftentimes that's data dependent. There is an information on here for the company, and again, that's often data dependent, or the branch plant information. What if it's a reprint? You probably want to have something on there like a watermark that says reprint. There are often attachments that are done or notes that are attached to the purchase order at the header level. And in this specific case, they were missing a bunch of information such as the FOB point, the ordered by, the currency, delivery information. Line details, one of the things that JD Edwards is famous for is having an awful lot of data that could show up in a detail line. Very much with purchase orders, same thing with sales orders. So having a variable sized line is something that is typically very important. On here as well, just to note, this is a pure English language form. That was fine for the customer, but we work with customers in the US that often have Spanish and English forms, and certainly in Canada that have English and French forms. So the ability to swap the language on the fly based upon the preferences is another level of sophistication. So carrying on, for ease of being able to view it, I actually split the sample of a page of it into two. So they have sales tax showing up. Well, that's nice, but there's often different jurisdictions, and you need to be able to split it out by the jurisdiction and what the tax amounts were. If you've got multiple pages for a document, proper use of the real estate and proper presentation is to have continuation headers and footers, and this was set up so the same information would print on every single page. Again, they were looking for signatures. Well, why have people hand sign? If you need to, that's great. But again, that's typically just conditional logic based upon something that's in there, possibly the business unit, the buyer, some other information, dollar amount, and apply the signatures. One of the other things, not only for them, but we did a quick fix for somebody for pick tickets, where when it got to the bottom of a page, the line details were split across pages, and most people, for clarity purposes, want all of the information for a line kept together. So not as simple to do as you might think. And then you're getting into things like terms and conditions. And if you want terms and conditions, do you want them on the very last page only? Do you want them on every page? And if it's every page, typically it's on the back. Again, you're printing duplex. Oh, and if you're going to do that, you need to find a way to keep the terms and conditions pages from burning a page number and having the page numbers properly reflect on the forms. Then other things like carry forward totals. Do you want them at the top or the top of the detail lines or at the bottom? If it's coming from a non-production environment, do you want it to show a watermark? Do you want to see in a small font the actual report and version? So R55 43 500 underscore ZJDE040 that gave rise to it. If you need to troubleshoot, that's helpful information to have. Where we've seen working with customers, sophistication is either not there or people really struggle with. Conditional output is a classic example, and there's lots of situations where that's the case. One that we did for this specific customer is on the purchase order, on the detail lines, the second item number, if it's the same as the main item number, they didn't want it to print, but if it was different, they did want it to print. On checks, classic example, the signatures, possibly automatically signing it for one of the signatures if it's under $10,000, or for both of it if it's under $1,000. Printing a watermark if it's non-production. There's all kinds of conditions that can give rise to different output on it, and that's something where people struggle quite often. Even something like logos and signatures, we've seen where if the logo is a rectangle versus a square, it's all about the real estate and proper placement so that it's imaged properly. So auto-sizing images for things like logos, even for signatures. The signature file for Fred is a lot larger than it is for Sally, and you need to shrink it down a bit. Keeping sections together across page breaks. Smart design overall, this is outward-facing documents, so it's the company image that you're talking about. We've seen ones where standard design principles like don't use different size fonts, make sure you've got a professional layout, have boxes around the data, shade appropriate ones, a light gray, put corners around it for a better look. There's probably 50 design principles that should be part of a professional looking form, and unless you're doing it on a regular basis, you miss that, and your company image suffers. Talked about continuation headers and footers for maximizing real estate, language and currency display. It might not be obvious, but for French language, when you're doing the currency display, the dollar sign is at the end, and where the period is before the cents, it's actually a comma, and in place of a comma between the thousands, it's actually just a space. Auto sizing of sections. The end result that we've seen so often with BI Publisher, but also with clients that are making use of third-party products like CreateForm, Formscape, Optio, is a lot of basic designs and often an awful lot more than are needed. We've seen, I think, 28 versions of a purchase order print when really only 2 were needed because the designer, rather than use conditional capabilities and the sophistication that can be done, creates one for each version, and then you get into the nightmare of maintenance. A little bit of a background here. We were Bottom Line Technologies' main CreateForm partner for J.D. Edwards for about 7 years, including being Partner of the Year for about 5. So our genesis is in J.D. Edwards and also Forms Design. We saw the freight train of BI Publisher coming. We held off on moving over to start to work with it for several years because it wasn't quite ready for prime time. When we did start to work with it, we realized that there was an awful lack of skills and capabilities out there in the market with customers compared to what people wanted to be able to do. So what we did was we took our capabilities with CreateForm and with J.D. Edwards to come up with what we call our BI Publisher Pack. So that's what we're going to touch on a bit here. The whole idea is accelerating the start and completion of your project. Typical scenario, and I think this is based upon one of our actual customers, looking at doing AP and payroll checks. From a basic design side, that's probably about 8 weeks to do the design, get through testing, back and forths and all that, to get to the point where you have something to start with, but doesn't have the sophistication. The same scenario for a customer is cutting it down to 2 weeks because the design is largely there and it's a matter of tweaking for the individual one. So that's a saving of 6 weeks, and quite often when you're looking at implementing BI Publisher, it's in a time crunch. You might be wanting to avoid renewing your maintenance, or it's part of an upgrade and you got a lot of other things on the go. So saving the time can be very beneficial. The scenario that we were looking at here, comparing it for the in-house development, their estimate fully burdened for one of their people that would be doing this was about $75 an hour. So with the 8 weeks to get to end of job, but not with the sophistication, their estimate was about $24,000. With the accounts payable check BI Publisher pack being licensed, about a day of consulting time to help with the tweaking and all that, the total cost ended up being just a shade over 25%. And again, it went from being 8 weeks to about 2 weeks. So the whole idea is freeing up limited time and resources and starting out with sophisticated forms rather than hoping that you will be able to get there. So this is an actual sample. So we left some of the stuff generic. So where it's highlighted, so the company address, the remit to address, the to address showing up in yellow, that's something that would override with the actual data from the customer. But this is one of a series of about 10 that we pull out from a sample. This is in French. The full run-through has French, English, and Spanish, and they're all in a single stream. So this one has the French language and totals, and this is automatic. So you don't need to do anything. It's just automatic. Down at the bottom, beside where you see worldwide company and the remit address in yellow, there's the tax information with the split outs, including the tax identification information. You notice there's 3 lines on there with 3 different sizes. That's reflecting the amount of data that is to come across. And for them, for this specific example, they wanted part of the information highlighted in red. So we did that. This was a draft version before it went into final production, so it shows draft as a watermark. When this is run in production, it would not. This is set up for continuation headers and footers, and the next example will show that. There's conditional logic set on here for some of the fields, and there's options that we're making use of for the totaling. So, and again, just to point out, this is out of the box. So if you sent us 43500 sample data, we would turn this back to you showing what it would look like with yours. So this is another example, but again, this is in English. So rather than saying facture and numéro de commande or numéro de facture, it's invoice and invoice number and invoice date. And again, this is automatic. Again, different size sections. Tax information, you can see it peeking behind on the third one down there, because this is a continuation one. With being a multi-page one, the first page does not have the full details at the bottom. The second page does. The second page does not have the full header information. The first page does. This was also set up for terms and conditions and to be printed in duplex. So this would actually print out with the terms and conditions on the back, and the page numbers are being respected. A little bit of a subtlety, this one has a logo on it as well, and it would be automatically sized. Another real little subtlety, but if you mail things out when you're designing the form, most people use window envelopes, so you need to account for that when you're designing it. Well, the forms we've got are designed to fit in a number 10 window envelope. And we've only got subtotals on the first page, and again, there's conditional logic in there. So again, this is out of the box stuff. There's an awful lot of sophistication behind the scenes, including what we call our BI Publisher processing options. The nice thing is there's not an awful lot that you need to do for it. You just make decisions, enable them in the design, and it works from there. You can get to, actually, let's maybe stop there, Doug, see if there's any questions that have come in to this point in time, and then we can get onto the putting it all together slide.
One question, Mike, was, is this available for World and E1?
Excellent question, and yes, it is. Absolutely. So,
okay, that's all we had at the moment. I'll keep an eye out for future questions, though.
The designs that are there, they're pre-configured, they're production ready, and they're easy to maintain. One of the things that's part of this as well is when you get them, not only are they updated to reflect the individuality that you might need, but we also take some time to walk through it with you. The designs in the template that you'd look at in Microsoft Word, our designers have color-coded things so that you know that if it shows up in yellow, it's a processing option. If it shows up in purple, it's conditional logic. So there's visual clues in addition to the documentation. So not only do you get the sophistication, you also get the knowledge to be able to start to apply it to other things that you might need to do. Controlling things like the logo, global messages, watermark, languages, brought forward totals, and cumulative totals, all just in essence processing options directly within the design itself. What we've absolutely seen is the most commonly used data fields, because we've been doing forms design, be it receivable statements or payroll checks or purchase orders or AP checks for years, we know what most customers are looking for. It's included in the design. And tweaking to add some fields in or take some off is not a big deal. A lot of the clients that we work with also have their own R55 through R59 versions. So pretty common question is, well, we've got something custom, can we still use it? And the answer is yes, absolutely. If you've added some fields in, probably need to take a look and see where it would make sense to put it in there. But again, you're making some tweaks to it as opposed to designing from scratch. So what we've seen most of the time is it's pretty much load and go with the tweaking involved as well. So we've got a couple of slides here about third-party software versus BI Publisher. We've worked with a number of customers migrating over from CreateForm, Optio, Formscape to BI Publisher. We've got a couple that we've done recently and one that we'll be switching over, where the last thing that is holding them back is some pretty sophisticated AP checks they need to do. So what we've seen with third-party software is you're paying maintenance on top of it. The investment in the software is sunk, but you still got 20 to 22%. And in some cases, that's into the tens of thousands of dollars a year for it. Most clients do not have people that are skilled and capable in doing the design and working with the logic for the third-party products in-house. So it creates a dependency on third-party consultants. We still do CreateForm work, but if you go to the source, i.e. Bottom Line Technologies, typically it's in the range of $200 an hour plus and 4-hour minimums for anything that you want to get done. So the cost can add up really quickly. We have justified switching people over just on maintenance savings over 2 years. With the BI Publisher, you're investing in your own internal staff, bringing them up to speed. You're getting within the Oracle stack. You're getting rid of your maintenance costs, and you're getting rid of all of the codependencies that go along with it as well. Really what we're looking at here is incompatibility. We've had clients that have been forced to upgrade or look at doing an upgrade for an Optio or a CreateForm because they were upgrading JD Edwards, and or because if they wanted to use the newer release, they also needed to upgrade browsers or other items. So there's a lot of codependencies that can catch people out. With the Oracle stack, BI Publisher will work with whatever the Oracle stack, whatever JD Edwards Enterprise One or World works with. It's also an Oracle product, so you got your ongoing support. It's integrated, so when you're upgrading, it's just part of it. Same thing with browser compatibility, and it's syncing with the other software that is there and is part of what you get from Enterprise One and World. What we have right now, and probably 80% of them are available for World as well as Enterprise One, but all of these are available for Enterprise One. So purchase orders, invoices, and when you're talking invoices, R42565, that's invoices, acknowledgments, and all the variations of that. Explanation of payments, EFT, deposit notifications, AP checks, US and Canadian, payroll checks, US and Canadian, direct deposit receipts, pay stubs, total compensation statements, work orders, pick slips, pack slips, tax forms for Canada and the US, as well as custom reports. We do a fair amount of that with customers as well. So the real focus here is out-of-the-box capabilities with sophistication and intelligence and some very good design practices that are out of the box. When we started the design for this as well, we recognized that not everybody needs all of the sophistication that is required across all of the forms. So we came up with 2 packages or levels for each of them. The Gold. The Gold is a basic design. It's for any of the forms, AR statements, AP checks, purchase orders, invoices, pick slips, pack slips. It's built to have the best design practices. It's got the pre-configured totals and page numbers and continuation headers and footers. It'll accommodate a logo. pretty easy to tweak if you want to have two and just have it triggered by something, but it gets you going. The Platinum versions includes all of the more sophisticated items that we've had in there, like the processing options, the watermarks, the multi-language capabilities, global message placement options, and all that. We also, with some of the Platinum ones, recognize that there's additional knowledge transfer and additional capabilities and some tweaks that are needed. So with some of them, we include some no-charge development hours. And it's the software world. If you're looking to get more, we're more than happy to discuss a multi-license discount for you. One of the cases in point, before we get on to the next slide, we've got a customer that we have been working with for about 9 years. We got them going on CreateForm. When they migrated to 9.0, we switched them over to BI Publisher, and that was great. About 9 months ago, they bought another company and have been working diligently on ingesting them and bringing them up on JD Edwards. What they realized was when they did the BI Publisher with us initially, they based it upon, first of all, it was before the publisher packs we had. Second of all, it was based upon the complexities that they had first time around that they did not want to recreate. So when they bought the new company on board, they got hold of us and said, we need AP checks, we need payroll checks, we need invoices, we need purchase orders, we need pick slips, we need pack slips, we need work orders, and 2 custom forms. So we put a package together for them for all of the forms. The design time after we went through a workshop with them to discuss what's different from our out of the box to what they were looking for, it was a couple of weeks to tune and to tweak the designs for what they're looking for and get them ready for production. So all of those forms within a couple of weeks, soup to nuts, including the sophistication. What's not uncommon for customers with AP checks is to have a boatload of bank accounts. We've worked with, I think the largest one we worked with, because they're in the construction industry, had over 270 bank accounts. Property management company that we worked with said, the only thing holding us back from getting rid of CreateForm is our checks. And the reason it's holding us back is we've got about 14 different bank accounts in US and Canadian, and we add and change them pretty regularly, and the signing authorities change on a regular basis as well. What that leads us to is having to crack open the code on a regular basis to update the image files to use and to update the micro information and to update the limits and all that. What we designed for them and have gotten out to several other customers as part of that is an extension, or what we call extended processing for checks. So we've extended the F0030 bank file in the maintenance screen port, as well as the standard output for US and Canadian AP checks. The ability is there now within JD Edwards with this extension to maintain by bank account the signature limits, the signature images that should be used, and the full micro line that should be made use of. We are also adding to that now for another client, and this will be part of the standard for the extended processing, the ability to assign the logo by bank account. And also in there right now is the ability to override the bank name and address. It normally comes from address book. Sometimes that's not legally what you want to show on the check. And again, the full micro line is passed through. What this gives you is the ability to do all of the maintenance that you would normally need to do either within BI Publisher or within CreateForm or CreateForm Designer or CreateStream, and take this all back into JD Edwards, have your users maintain it, and have it automatically pass through in the output onto your check. So the company Dream Global REIT did a presentation on this at InFocus. We've got a couple of examples from customers that we're going to touch on now. So Dixie Group, we worked with on their upgrade from 9.0 to 9.2. On their side, they wanted to move away from Optio to BI Publisher. If they maintained Optio, they needed to do a server upgrade for it. Also, the changes they were looking to do as they grew JD Edwards and grew their level of sophistication were getting a lot more challenging. They didn't have the skills to take care of this, either in Optio or in BI Publisher, but they wanted to deprecate Optio and pick up BI Publisher and pick up the skills to be able to take care of it themselves. Their estimate for the checks was 1 month to do the basic design. So they were on a session like this. They came and talked to us, actually to Doug, if I'm not mistaken, and they got the BI Publisher packs for AP checks, invoices, and payroll checks. We did some small updates to them, as is pretty common, to the packs to meet their specific needs, and they went live with this as part of the 9.2 upgrade. Angie Cornelison from Dixie Group presented at Collaborate in April in Vegas this year on the upgrade and mentioned this as well. So they've now taken this in-house for their future updates that they need to do. So the takeaway from the Dixie Group for this was getting fast track to the results that they wanted to do, be able to get away from the third-party issue with Optio, and getting the knowledge transfer so that they could go forward themselves with BI Publisher. So continue on to the Leadcore one. So Leadcore is a major construction company in Western Canada that operates in the U.S. and in Canada. They are a very heavy Createform user, and we did the initial installation and work for them. They wanted to move away from Createform as much as possible. They are one of the ones where, and we did a webinar that we did earlier this month about migrating from third-party products. We very specifically touch on things that you cannot do in BI Publisher right now, or that you need to look at workarounds. This was the case for them. They had unbelievable sophistication in their AP checks and a few other things, so not all of that can be moved away. However, they did want to move away as much as possible. So first cut in 2015 was some registers and some standard reports, a preventative maintenance schedule report, AR statements, purchasing, and debit statements. Second cut late in 2016 was they absolutely had to move 22 payroll reports and registers and automatic deposit advice that were being delivered by Image Now, and pay stubs for email delivery and a summary payroll file. They needed all of that switched over to BI Publisher. Some of that was BI Publisher packs. Some of it they did themselves. The heavy lifting and more sophisticated they outsourced to us. So that was partly due to timing and partly due to the knowledge that we had. Interestingly enough, they were able to do a lot more second time around because of the experience going with us. They are still somewhat on Createform. Probably within the next year to year and a half they'll move away because there's been things that have been added and tools released that they will be getting to that will help them out. But the main message there is that it doesn't have to be an all or nothing. If you're looking to move away from a third-party tool, you can do it piecemeal and over a period of time and build up the skills, capabilities, and sophistication in-house to let you get there. So before we get to the last slide, which is the TeamCain stuff in general, Doug, let's see if there's any other questions so far.
Another somewhat technical one, but version of Microsoft Word.
Oh, that's a good one. I'm pretty sure it can go back to, Doug, do you remember on this? We've had this asked a couple of times. I'm not sure if 2013 is okay.
Well, I know
the latest version.
Our developers are still using 2010. I believe that the 365 was not, or either just was certified, or is supposedly about to be, and that was as of InFocus. I would have to go back and double check that one.
Okay, so maybe we can take that offline and get back to the questionee for that.
Absolutely.
Okay,
and just
cool.
Scrolling through, I think that is all of the questions.
Okay, cool.
Actually, one question just popped in as I was moving through. Is there any word for having 1099M form template print 2 on a page? And that's something I have not got any updates on that, but I don't know if you do, Mike, or we can get back to that person as well.
Nope, same here. Do not know, so we can check into that and get back. It's the fun stuff with the tax forms, right? Get to this time of year, heading into the fall, there's all the updates and changes, and we want that come with it. So always fun.
Yes.
Okay.
I guess what I would add to that is if Oracle doesn't come out with an update, that's something that we would probably look to have available for people. But my guess is that they would be coming out with that change.
Yeah, typically that's the case because it is legislative, and as a legislative requirement, they normally have to provide that. The other question then is always timing. So, but you are right, sir. Alrighty, just quickly onto the TeamCain slide. So just in terms of who we are, we're an Oracle Gold partner. We've been a Quest partner forever. We're at all the shows, all the conferences. I'm on some of the SIGs. I'm a Quest ambassador. So we're really big believers in the community. We've been a partner for over 20 years in JD Edwards. Upgrades, migrations, new modules, training, rollouts, you name it. You know, if it's health and safety, if it's a full upgrade, full migration, whatever. We also have partnered with what we think some of the best-in-breed tools for JD Edwards are, and that includes Purge-It, which is JD Edwards data archiving and purging for both World and Enterprise One. An awful lot of pickup and interest in the ScanMan solution, which is AP automation built directly into Enterprise One. So this is not available for World, but it is available for Enterprise One. Oracle validated integration, and kind of tying into the theme of moving away from third-party products, we're seeing a lot of interest from customers that are running the Transform AP solution, wanting to migrate over to ScanMan. ScanMan's from an organization called Forza in Europe. They also have a package manager or object lifecycle management solution with package build automation and a self-serve password reset product. We partner with DWS for, among other things, the Dimension Swift test. So a great tool to let you set up and manage your testing natively within Enterprise One. We're a long-standing partner of Global Software with their spreadsheet server solution. If you are an Excel-based organization and prefer to get your data from JD Edwards in Excel for financial reports or any other analysis, this is a great directly tied to JD Edwards solution. Do distribution, automatically do dashboards, and there's also an enterprise budgeting component. And we have also been partnered with RF Smart for about 17 years now. If you're looking for RF automation with direct integration to JD Edwards, both World and Enterprise One, it does that. So maybe we'll just skip by the questions one and get to the very last slide, which is the what's next. And Doug, you can maybe monitor for questions because we're coming to the tail end here. We've mentioned a couple of the other webinars that we've done in relation to this, and also sessions that customers like Dixie Group, Port of Portland, Dream Global REIT have done at user groups. If you are interested in any of those presentations, customer experiences on it, be happy to share that with you. We've also got, as I mentioned before, migrating from third-party solutions to BI Publisher, a specific webinar that is on our website. What we offer to people as well is, if you want to see what your form could look like with some sophistication, you work with us, send us a sample output from whatever it is, 42565, 04572, 43500, you know, you name it. Send it to us. Tell us what kind of sophistication you're looking for, and we can run this through our templates and send you a sample back from your real data run to show you what it looks like out of the box. What we found with that is it makes it real for people real quickly and real easily. So we've also got a glossy or a brochure on BI Publisher Packs that explains it in a little bit more detail. So if you want to copy that, just let us know. And if there's anything else we can do to help out, let us know. We're part of the community. It's important to us. So even if it's just the starting point is, hey, and we've had this, a client that was running into issues with their printing their cycle count sheets and wanted a little bit of advice. We helped them out. Took us about an hour, so we just said, we'll just help you. But think of us if you have a need that comes up, and lo and behold, they decided that their invoices were not quite what they were looking for, so they've reached back out to us. But if there's stuff that we can do, even if it's spending, a half hour on a web session with you to get you through a few thorny things that you're running into, let us know. Other than that, the focus for today was reviewing what sophistication for outbound forms for a modern organization should be and where we most often see the gaps, and there's quite a few. So we hope this resonated with you. We hope that you can appreciate the difference between a thoroughly well-designed, sophisticated, intelligent form and a basic pixel-perfect one. And we hope that you've got some ideas that you've taken away for how you can improve your organization. And we would love it if we'd have an opportunity that we could help you out with it. So, Mr. Dugster, that's all we got. Any questions that have come in?
That was a new impression for me that I hadn't heard you do, so well done. No further question.
Okay. Doug, you've worked with a number of the customers as well, in particular Port of Portland and some stuff for Roy Jorgensen and Dixie Group and all that. Anything else that you'd want to add in terms of, the topic today for sophisticated forms and getting away from third-party solutions?
I think the biggest factor for me is most of the companies that we've worked with, we've helped them get to a certain point, and then they've been able to take it on themselves. This is not something where the ongoing calls to consultants are the norm. It's Microsoft Word. It's easy to maintain and make the necessary changes as you're moving forward. So that long-term reduction in cost of ownership is definitely a key factor in having people make the decision to go ahead and jump in.
Right, good point. And yeah, once you've got it there, maintaining something that's sophisticated as opposed to doing it yourself from scratch is a totally different order of magnitude and level of difficulty. So yeah. All righty. Well, I guess, Doug, we could keep this open for another couple of minutes, see if there's any other questions that have come in. We are under the wire for our time frame, always good. So let's hang around for a little bit. If you want, you can sing now, Doug, and we'll see if there's any other questions. If not, and for people that are on the session, if you're dropping off now, thanks for your time. Remember the survey on your way out, and we sincerely hope that we can be having conversations with you to help you out with what you have now or would like to get with BI Publisher and JD Edwards. Thanks, everybody.